Hello and welcome to Artbeat, a monthly podcast where we get to hear directly from artists and creatives about their craft, owning a business, and how they define success in the art world. If you're new here, welcome. We would love to know what you think about the show, so please leave us a rating and any feedback that you may have. You can find Artbeat on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and Instagram. Today I'm excited to connect with Jay Wilkinson of Jay Wilkinson Art. He's a local painter in Fort Worth, Texas, and he's featured his works in several galleries, including Fort Works Art, where he's now managing the gallery space. Jay's work explores themes of memory and nostalgia, often questioning the difference between a true record of events and what may not be entirely accurate. Now, let's get to the episode. I really appreciate you joining me and being a part of it.
Yeah.
Just to get started, can you
Sure.
talk a little bit about who you are and what you do?
My name's Jay Wilkinson. I'm an artist. I have done all kinds of things. I went to school a little bit. I got into art. I kind of drew my whole life, and then I got into art seriously in high school. And then I had a little scholarship to Pratt's Art Institute in New York, but I couldn't stay very long because I didn't have enough money for it. So I don't really have much academic training. So I've kind of just been doing it on myself. So I'm pretty self-taught. And so mostly I paint, and painting is kind of my favorite thing to do, but I have done all kinds of nonsense, sculptural installation stuff, weird projects, stuff for music festivals. And I've had a handful of different little galleries that I've started and stopped and ran before. And just kind of, I don't know. I really just like the whole DIY aspect of art. But yeah, as I get older, all I want to do is paint. So
Really, I find that a pattern too in people that I know, plus all the things that I want to do. And then I stop and think, oh, I'm just all over the place. I need to focus. But that's kind of the nature of it, isn't it?
yeah, I mean, I've built my whole career on being all over the place. So, I think it's fine. I think that, I mean, and definitely there's a handful of opportunities I didn't miss or maybe getting in my own way, but I think I would be bored if I focused too heavily in one direction, for too long.
I was able to go to school for a bachelor's in art down in Houston. I went to Sam Houston State, so it was a good program. I honestly think it was a good size, and my professors very much treated us like colleagues more than students, which I hear is different from a lot of bigger programs. So I feel really lucky to have experienced that. But I got into some weird stuff throughout my career there too. I did a lot of weird installation stuff, but that was the fun stuff,
Yeah, it's the best. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always kind of had a little bit of an appetite to do things bigger than my capabilities to do them are. And so I've had some large failures in my career trying to pull off things that I wasn't able to pull off, but those were always my favorite projects. So, I'm a big fan. I'm not the guy to talk to play it safe,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I feel like that's the best. That's the best kind of artist, to be honest. But so you've done a lot of different things. You said you've been drawing forever, painting for a long time, and you're leaning more toward painting now. So one question I did want to ask you was how you ended up finding your style, because I've looked at your work recently, and I mean, you definitely have a mark. I can recognize your art, which is good.
I think that honestly, a bunch of this, I would say that probably, in my opinion, a lot of times when an artist says that they have a style, I don't know that there was a conscious decision in that process as much as I just kind of stumbled and followed the people who I thought were great. And so then I would see things here and see things there and try them, incorporate them, or even attempt to make something down the same avenue of mark making that somebody else I liked, and then fail entirely and have a whole other new version of making marks. So honestly, I'm still evolving too. I think I don't even feel like I've totally hit the nail on the head. I feel like I'm getting closer. I feel like I'm hopefully within the next 5 years or 10 years or so, be able to find exactly what I want. I think you start just doing things and just grabbing things and throwing stuff at the wall. And then eventually you start realizing how you can shape it into something that you want it to be. And I'm hopefully getting closer to that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I mean, you said that you want to focus more on painting now. I don't know how much you have been focusing on that in recent years, but as you do that, I think you'll get closer to what you're looking for. And I mean, that's consistent with a lot of things that people tell me as an artist myself is you just got to get in the studio and do it. You have to spend time with it. It's like building a relationship with your
Hmm.
practice. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I feel like it's a lot like that. Yeah, it's definitely that. And then it's kind of, I feel like sometimes it's like digging for dinosaur bones. Like I feel like I'm slowly uncovering, something, you know what I mean? And I've been like trying my whole life and I'll just dig in one area for a long time and be like, oh, there's nothing over here. You know what I mean? But then I'll go back and be like, oh, here's the rest of the dinosaur the skeleton that I was looking for. So it's like, it's just, I feel like you're kind of like slowly, but yeah, the only way to do it is to do it in abundance, where you can kind of see all of the process in your mind and stuff that laid bare on a bunch of paintings, and so I think it's really fun. It's really
yeah.
fun to
Oh,
make
that's
mistakes. You know what I mean? And yeah,
yeah. That's what it's all about. And I mean, if it's not fun, then what are you doing? But I
yeah.
mean, that's kind of a center point of a lot of the conversations that I've been having is really asking people, are you doing art full time? I've talked to a lot of people who just do it on the side or they were working a 9 to 5 and then they've transitioned. I've also talked to people who do it full time and there's a lot of stress with that, right? Relying on
Oh
your
God,
craft.
I've done both. I've done both at different times. I've done all kinds of varying levels where I was completely doing my art as my career, and then I've had times where I wasn't even making art because I was so broke I needed to work, and I got really far away from my practice. And then I've had times where I was like 70-30 or 80-20, and just kind of like, but every time, yeah, it's scary. It's like there you just miss it so much when you're away from it, but then when it's your only way through, it starts becoming a job, and so there's a lot of aspects of it that can grind on you. And I almost become paralyzed by having to do too many things I don't want to do with it, you know,
Mm,
like especially like because I have kind of a classical style and traditional representational things. So I can do a lot of commissions and a lot of like other kind of jobs that allow me to kind of make money on the side. But if I line up too many of those in a row, I just want to die. Like my whole body just shuts down and I can't paint anymore. I'd rather go pick up trash or something. It's funny. Yeah, it's hard. It's so hard because it's really hard to figure out where to, in terms of,
balance.
yeah, especially in terms of like the money process. It's weird. You know.
Yeah. Do you feel like you've found a good balance at this point since you've done a lot of different ways of doing it?
Yeah, I feel like I've gotten closer, and I think my jobs, the kind of work, the day jobs, you know what I mean, especially with the managing the gallery, have gotten closer to being things that complement painting. You know what I mean, which is helpful.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, there's always, I feel like with me, unfortunately, there's always a point where whatever I'm doing, whatever structure I've built for myself, I want to like shake it up. You know what I mean? So right now it's going well, but we'll see. I might try something new soon.
To sort of double click on the whole managing Fort Works Art Gallery, can you
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about how you came into that role and how it's changed your relationship with the gallery? Because you said you were represented there before.
Yeah, actually, so I was represented there before, and then I left and I moved to New York October 2019, and then the world ended basically. So it was wild because I was living there at that kind of the height of the whole thing. It was very very
Yeah.
intense to be during the early part of stages of COVID. So, but I left and came back, and then when I was back, I was kind of I after COVID kind of let up and it was time to do new things, I got a residency actually through Lauren, who's the owner of Fort Works Art, downtown with the Bass family. And so that's when I was doing a bunch of commission works for them. And then I also opened Dang Good Candy, that gallery downtown. And that was fun because that was a little bit, you know what I mean? Like, what's nice about it is that it didn't have a huge financial obligation because it was part of my residency program. So I could show all kinds of artists who who I think just needed a step, people who've never sold their work before, people who I think, and what's nice is that I think that there's always this weird space between doing group shows and showing your work and having a solo exhibition, because a solo exhibition is like writing an album. And you understand your work so much better when you create a body of work and show it together. And you see the relationships between the paintings you're making and why they're there and all this stuff. That's what I did, is I wanted to do solo exhibitions only for artists who've never had them. And so we did, I think, 25 of them during my process of being there. And it was so good. I loved that aspect of things. So that was just a wild kind of stumble into it. It was my studio, and I thought, oh, well, let's do some shows here. So that's where I kind of, that gallery kind of came out of that. And then once the residency was over and that was over, Lauren loved what I had done so much there that she called me to come.
That's
So
awesome.
it's great. And we've been friends forever and ever. And so it's really easy and it's wonderful. And a lot of the collectors and artists and everybody, I know them very well. So it's really simple to kind of be in that position. I'm not great with admin, but besides that, I love it,
Who is, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So you were curating, and had you done that before?
How I got started in Fort Worth was a friend and I had this little underground music venue called the Warehouse, and it was like not what you'd say legal. And so we had like bands and stuff like that. But then in the meantime, we would do little art shows. And then I was kind of doing it, just lightly and doing my own art. And then I met a real good friend of mine, Jeremy Joel, who actually passed away. Today's actually the day he passed away 4 years ago.
Wow.
And but we were a great team. We had this little collective called the Bobby on Drums, and we would do these shows at, in the back of shipping and receiving in a big warehouse, or like we had a small building on Ray Street that we rented for like $300, and we would do these shows. And so we would just kind of gather in locals and putting on shows. So I accidentally built a little career doing curating while I didn't mean to. And so then I really got good at it when I was downtown. And now I'd say I'm not bad at it. I've gotten a lot better.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, this is something that I talked to someone about recently, is just if you don't have experience doing something and you want to get into it, not that you were really looking to get into it, but here you are, and you just do it. You build your own experience, build your
1,000%.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what was that quote? I can't remember the quote exactly, but it's from Robert Rodriguez. And he's like, if you want to work in movies, go to school. If you want to be a director, just make a movie. You know what I mean? So like, not being from academia, especially because Jeremy, my buddy, wasn't either. And he was, from Poly and didn't kind of grew up kind of poor. And so we didn't have a lot of stuff. So the galleries weren't paying attention to us. So we just do our own shows and do our own openings. And it was highly effective for a lot of things, but especially with things like curating and getting these opportunities, like we just built our own path, and so I absolutely believe in that. It's hard. Not everybody can do that because there's a lot of stress and a lot of aspects of it that not all artists want to do. Business, event planning, things like that aren't really that much fun to do if that's not something you love. But for me and for us, it worked great. So I loved it, and so, yeah, I kind of accidentally built this little road for myself.
It helps when you're working with someone that you enjoy spending time with and brainstorming with. I mean, that can make it better. If you were doing it by yourself, that might have been a different story.
Totally. And I mean, we were just delusional. We just thought we could do anything. So that helped,
Yeah. So do you have any tips for artists who want to do their own show? Like, where were you doing these? What places
we were doing them in some spaces that I don't know that fully exist anymore, but I mean, a lot of play, I think that if you're an artist and you want to start, if you want to throw your own show, the best opportunities is kind of look for other businesses that are interested in that kind of thing, or just like ask around. Or the biggest thing you can do as an artist in the whole world is to go and meet people. You know what I mean? Go to art shows, go to events, go to coffee shops, say hi to people. I mean, because the thing is that it's so much word of mouth and there's so many opportunities that come out of that. I mean, every opportunity I've ever had is just from people that I've met and known. I've always told, anytime I've ever spoke to artists, I've always said, like, no one's looking for you. No one wakes up and is like, oh, I've got some money. I'd really like to go find a local artist out there to spend the money on. Unfortunately, you have to put your thing in their face. And social media is great for that, but also just generally going and attending places and meeting people. And so, yeah. I mean, if you want to do your own event, talking to venues is great. But if you just want to show your work, there's plenty of avenues to do that, especially in Fort Worth. I mean, years ago, Jeremy, and a group of other people, Shasta, Amy, we founded Art Tooth. And Art Tooth is an awesome opportunity. It's an emerging artist group in Fort Worth, and they're constantly doing shows. And so they're awesome to just kind of follow and get to know. And they always have opportunities. They're just like this nice nexus point for people for on your way up, So
Yeah.
there's plenty of cool places and cool people to know.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm finding more and more art communities, like small little pockets of people everywhere. And I just love it because my story is that I went to school for art, but I was in Houston. And so instead of staying in Houston, I came back to Dallas. So I kind of started over, and it was a little difficult to do that. Plus, I was newly graduated and just wanted to pay my rent. So I focused on getting a 9-to-5 job, and I thought I would always focus on my art outside of that. But, trying to build a life somewhere else is, it takes time. And being in corporate, I mean, I just would be tired and I wouldn't have it in me. So
Right.
I'm really trying to get myself out of that. And this is kind of a way to do that.
That's awesome. Yeah. I've gotten
Yeah.
stuck too. Man, actually over the time period between COVID and working with the Basses downtown, I did quite a lot of work, but it was all commission based. So I didn't make any new work for almost. It happens, it happens. It happens to everybody.
So I guess pivoting to Fort Worth's art, you've probably been in the role for about a year now. Is that right?
A little over. Yeah.
What kind of things have you been doing? Have you changed anything at all?
No, I mean, I've gotten a little bit. We've done, in honor of my old gallery, we did a show called the Dang Good, because it was Dang Good Candy was the name of the gallery. And then so we did a Dang Good group show and brought in a bunch of locals. And then I've did a show that I curated. Our owner, Lauren, who put on that I was really big fan of, was Clay Stinnett. He's a really good artist from Dallas. She worked with him to put it together, but it was really fun working on that show. And then we have a bunch of good artists who we've been working with for a while. But I think that one thing that's been new that we're working on is just trying to kind of do more events, just have people come by. And, we've gotten to the point where we've kind of settled in these winter and summer shows where we kind of just do a salon style with a lot of our artists, which is cool because it gives opportunity for each artist to bring in one or two new things. And then we're just saying, hey, come see the new works. It's not necessarily a show. So that gives us time to plot our 4 or 5 big shows of the year and then a little bit of space in the middle. So that's been really cool. We're doing a brand new artist residency, by the way. So all Fort Worth artists, there's a residency program that ends this Friday. I don't know if there's anybody you could tell or anybody but it ends this Friday, and it's $7,500 stipend and 3-month studio and a show at the gallery. So that's a big, cool opportunity that we've put together this year. A lot of the programming that we've started is really coming into next year. A lot of the stuff that we did last year was already there in place when I got there, So, but I've loved it. Awesome.
No, that's great. So you have a lot of shows with artists that are represented by the gallery. In the residency, anyone can apply for that. Is there any kind of open call for some of the shows that you do there?
We are going to do an open call, I believe, soon. There used to be an open call there before I was there, and I don't know why it went away, but we've been talking about bringing it back. It's the best thing. I mean, so for me, I was leaning toward the idea of helping the kind of emerging base of artists. That's why I did it with my gallery downtown. And I love the artists that we have because we have really talented artists who represent from all around the country and region and stuff. But I really love because there's such a rawness. There's a little fear and there's a little magic and stuff for these first stages. I love established artists because they're in this point with their craft where they're really just kind of moving in it and they're fine tuning it. And that's really cool to see. But I love the guys who are just really just kind of trying. So just kind of throwing stuff at the wall. Those are always the most fun. And I like validating the road they're taking. And so, yes, I would love to do a jury show. I'm sure we will. I just don't know when.
I'd love to come to that. And I definitely need to put some of the events that you have coming up on my calendar
Yeah,
too.
yeah. I'll shoot you all of our events for sure.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. I guess going back to balance, I mean, you said that there's periods of time where you focus on commissions and you're not really
Mhm.
getting to create your own work. Whenever you do create your own work, what does that look like? What kind of space do you create for yourself? How do you get started?
Oh man, I am a little bit of a bottle rocket, and that like if I'm working on a show or something like that, I'll just like I'll think about it for 3 months, and then I'll make the whole show in like 8 weeks. Like and then which I'm trying to get out of, because I got married a couple of years ago, and my wife doesn't love to like jump off the deep end and live in your studio. You know what I mean? And also I don't like it either because it doesn't really give me the time to live with the work. I
Hmm.
kind of just produce it, and then you know what I mean. And I love the rapid fire feeling of making it, but then I realized later that if I had like sat with it for a while, like, I would have seen things that I wanted to mess with more. So I usually just dump myself into whatever I'm making, in maybe an unhealthy way, but I'd like to, I'm trying to get better at that. And I do kind of move in seasons like that. A lot of artists I know will paint kind of consistently, and I kind of like to think about each body of work or each thing I'm about to make and kind of why. And so there's like this like time period in the middle. A good friend of mine, Tim Okamura, who's a painter from New York, is really good. And he told me one time, he's like, when there's a show, when it's time for a show, like, you want to set rules for yourself so that while you're making the work, you can play within them. You don't just have all options available. You have, this box of characteristics that you want for your show. And then between shows, you just play. You can break the rules and move them around and try new things, and then reset the rules for another show. And so I have a bunch of one-off paintings and styles that I've like just worked with and just tried, and then I'll kind of find it and then set boundaries and then make a bunch of work like crazy. So my body work is very strange, but I like it.
What kind of things do you look to whenever you're thinking about the work before you get started?
There's certain aesthetics and colors that I really like, but also I really enjoy distance and kind of melancholy and like weight, but then coupled with like humor. Like I'm really falling more into humor, and so I'm trying to tread this space in finding this kind of like you know distant feeling, because I really love a lot of my work is about memory, and I think that how memory is not it's not a like reliable source, even though it's
Hmm.
the only thing that makes up who we are. So it's really fun to realize that you're just kind of lying to yourself, and then those lies become foundation for who you are. And I say lies kind of sounds intense, but it's true. You kind of like can manipulate the history of yourself by the way you feel. And so it's a lot more of a feeling than it is an image. And so I really like this kind of distant space with imagery. And so recently I've done a lot more combining images, because that's also the way that memory is too, where like I remember a friend of mine passed away years ago, and I remember the song that was on the radio on the way to his funeral, and I remember kind of crying a bit, and then I remember looking up and seeing an advertisement for like Lay's potato chips, and for some reason, all these things now are part of that memory of the drive to his funeral, and so that's kind of the way things are. You're constantly just inputting stuff. So recently, I've started grabbing more things from pop culture and adding them to kind of images that I already have, but I also like a lot of things I haven't tried yet, so I'm not sure where it's going to go, but that's where I've been.
Yeah, I love that. And I can definitely see that in some of the recent work that I was looking at on your website. I don't know if Free Dirt was one of the more recent collections that you made. Was that one of the
Yeah, that was the
most
most
recent?
recent.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that
So,
was last July.
yeah. So, I mean, I definitely saw that and I resonate with like thinking about memory with making art too. That's something that I explored years ago in school, and also the juxtaposition of that, like memory and dreams, and how,
Hmm.
and maybe it's our mind lying to us, but kind of mixing them together and not really remembering if it was a dream or a memory. And I also
Hmm.
think about deja vu as well
Hmm.
with,
Yes, exactly.
yeah, with like this smell, this visual, this feeling or weather like equals this experience that I had too. So
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's fun how many things can manipulate memory. Like it can be, like you said, there's those the like specifically smell is like your largest memory sense for some reason. So that ties you back to a lot of things, but also like photographs can change your memory of a memory. You know what I mean? Which is odd because you can see an
yeah,
image from that day and not remember much else. And then now that becomes kind of the new statement for kind of how that day felt. And so it can be that can be, lightly can manipulate your feelings and stuff. But I guess in a way, when I talk about it, I kind of feel like it comes off that it's a negative idea, but I think it's a really beautiful idea that our sense of self is so malleable to fit what we need it to be, because it would be really wonderful if everybody could remember every fact perfectly, because then it would be a little less conflict in the world probably. But I love that whoever I'm building, I'm kind of building my own way. You know what I mean? No matter what people say, they're like, "Hey, well, it happened like this." And I'm like, "Well, that's not the way I remember it." you know?
yeah. Well, I mean,
So
you're your own
that's fun.
individual
Yeah.
person, and yeah.
And I'm doing it to myself without even trying, which is really weird, and
Hmm.
kind of beautiful.
I feel like the next thing is adding smell to your
Mhm.
paintings.
Oh yeah,
How,
yeah,
how
yeah.
I
I mean,
wonder
if
how
it's
you'll do
out
that if you
there.
explore that. That'd be a good
I'm sure
show,
there's a way.
actually.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a way.
So we've talked a little bit about how everyone's experience is different and each chapter of your art career can look vastly different. So how would you say that you define success for yourself as a creative nowadays in this
Ooh.
chapter?
That's a good one. Actually, that's funny because that was the main conversation I used to have with Jeremy all the time. I bring him up a lot because, like I said, today is the day that he passed away 4 years ago. But also, he was like my closest, just like closest friend within this world. So we were
Mm.
constantly discussing what it meant to be an artist, and I have that in other relationships, but never as good as that one. So we would always talk about that, like what success looks like. And I think I've measured it in a bunch of different ways. When I was younger, I used to measure it on just the opportunity to be in a gallery. You know what I mean? And then I would measure it on the opportunity to do a certain kind of show or to be in a certain space, and then I would measure it on, can I make a living doing this? And so for me now, though, I think really what it is more it's gone away from all that and more back to where it probably should have been the whole time, which is like wanting to figure out why I'm doing this. You know what I mean? And I want to find that dinosaur skeleton. I want to get closer to who I'm supposed to be by doing it more and understanding, what else I can do with it. So I think in a lot of ways I've been thinking about taking some time to go back and like restudy things. And um my wife and I are actually talking about moving to Spain in a few years. And if
Cool.
so, then I would go study with some artist friends up there and just kind of get back to like continue to push myself, in a lot of ways. But in terms of a physical thing, I've always wanted to be in one of the national portrait galleries, probably in London. I think that'd be cool, but I don't know if that'll happen. you
Well,
know,
I think that's a great goal to have. And
yeah,
I
I
mean,
think it's a beautiful collection, and it'd be cool to be a part of that.
we talked about like if you want something, just kind of make it happen. So,
Hmm. Hmm. There is a lot of that, I'd say, especially in a career that is so abstract and amorphous. There's a lot of just putting stuff in the universe. I mean, and
mhm.
you'd be surprised how many people are paying attention who haven't yet come into your life who are going to change it. You know what I mean? And you have no idea how many fans you have or how many people like your work or what people are seeing or who would like to buy one soon. It's almost impossible to know. And you're always like 2 days away from something big or 2 months away or 2 years away from something really amazing happening. So you just kind of have to keep going. And which
Mhm.
can be tough for a lot of people, I know.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I think that reigns true with some of the things that I've been learning in the last couple months, really diving into getting more involved in art community. That's just something that I think about a lot because one of the things that really kind of held me back was feeling like I didn't have art community, but just this year I finally told myself to snap out of it and just go looking for it. And like I said, I've been finding all these different pockets of people. And so I think what you need and what you're looking for is out there. You just have to like
Yeah,
reach a little
I will
farther.
say you're absolutely right. I mean, our community is very, very important because it is such a it's a lonely practice anyway. It's something that most people do by themselves. And then on top of that, it is a practice in which you're creating a product that there's only one of in the world. So, like if you opened a pizza shop, that's easy. People like pizza, you know what I mean? But you're making something brand new that you want to show the world. And so then now you have to convince them that this is something that is valuable. A community that's also trying to do that you can kind of at least rest, your frustrations with it on, or your struggles at actually trying to physically increase your skill level, or any of the things that we go through. Our community is awesome, and then also they're also the network in which you get opportunities. So like, getting our community is a really valuable thing to do, and it's really hard because a lot of artists don't really they didn't get into art because they're specifically good at, what I mean, like social behavior, social
Hmm.
interaction. But even in that space, there's plenty of ways to do it without having to be the most gregarious person. But yeah, it's really valuable, really valuable.
That's one of my favorite things about having gone to art school. Like, yes, I learned many skills and how to work with different materials and theory and everything. That was great, but it was really just those moments of doing critique or brainstorming with my colleagues and my professors because they would do it
Mm.
right along with us, like inside class or outside of class. People just cared, like you were all there to like succeed in whatever way you thought that looked like within school. And it was just really positive and everyone was willing to help. And so that was something that one of my professors told me, like when I left school, like take advantage of this now because people won't want to talk to you about it. Like, but those people are out there. It's just not as easily accessible as when you're all going to art school. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's great. It's just a preoccupied time to go and be in the room together, which is hard, especially when people get older. Like it's hard to get my friends to get together to get a beer, let alone.
yeah, I used to think it was like a generational thing. Like maybe people my age were just flaky, but I just think it's everybody, and
It's everybody.
especially after the last 4 years, it's
Yeah.
even worse.
Exactly, exactly. It's even more important now just because of that. I mean, I can't, I can't even imagine. It's so valuable. And there's so many things I've learned and places that people have taken me and shown me things, and it just without doing any of that, I don't know what I would have been like. But it's like making art in a blank space. It's really awesome, but there's not something to bump up against. For me, I feel like so much of my art has to come from my experiences. Like that's why I have to think about it and stuff. I have to go, have a wild, have to go have a life for a little bit before I have something to make art about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because that's what you
So
make art from.
right, yeah, I need all the input, or there's nothing to come back. So it's love it. I love when it goes out and comes back in, and the best ones, the best people in your community are the ones who aren't going to tell you, who are going to tell you some real shit. You know what I mean? Because like, I've had a handful of, I love the community, and sometimes you're like, oh, it's great. You're like, that's really sweet, but not helpful.
It's not what I want to hear.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can't think of right now, but I know there's a few artists in Fort Worth who do critiques. Like they get together and bring something and critique each other. It's pretty fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. I was going to ask you about balancing with personal life, but it sounds like you're going to be working on that with
Yeah, yeah.
diving in. You're not going to dive in
Yeah.
so deep.
Yeah, I gotta dive in a little less when I get there and stuff. But no, my wife is awesome. And actually she's a really big part of a lot of my work too, because she just is so just like her brain moves so quick, and she's constantly discussing things with me. And so a lot of Free Dirt came from her, conversations with her and ideas that we had and things we did together. And so she's awesome, and she's
Yeah.
also, she doesn't pull any punches either. She's like, that looks bad. I'm like, okay, good. Thank you.
I
So
love that.
mhm.
No,
Yeah.
that's great. You need that. Everyone
Oh
needs
yeah.
that. as far as talking to up and coming artists or artists that want to get started, what kind of resources do you have that you enjoy or that you can think of to share?
Like, depending on if you're a person, if you live in Fort Worth, there I have some, more direct resources for you. Like, like I said, Art Tooth is a wonderful thing. Attending all of our art events, like gallery night, introducing yourself to gallery people and other artists you enjoy, and getting on clearly on Instagram and following all the artists and galleries and other people that you like, and actively participating in conversation with them. Big deal. Also, there's one called website called Call for Entry, which is a lot of people know about, but a lot of people don't. And it's just a good site for applications for grants or residencies or juried shows. And you can do them all around the country. There's always good stuff. And another good thing is when you do apply for a juried show, it's always really, really good to pay attention to who the curator is, because the curator, it doesn't really matter. They're always great to do a show. Doing a show is great, but you also would like to get your work in front of somebody who might have more opportunities for you, or who likes your kind of work, or is a more important person in the community as a whole. So that's a really good one, a good thing to do. And then another thing that it's not really like a resource, but a practice that I think is helpful is I always do like the Monday, I call it Monday, Tuesday, but like it's like Monday, go and paint and make whatever you want. Do not think about whether it sells or not. Do not think about its quality in the world, whatever. Just make sure it's something that you love. And then Tuesday, figure out how to sell it. You know what I mean? Then do not let them cross. You know what I mean? Don't let the work be influenced by can I sell it, and don't, vice versa. You know what I mean? Like, make sure that you make this and then you switch your brain and then you figure out how to get it out in the world. You know what I mean? Because those are very different brain spaces, and trying to do it in the same day or stressing about them in the same moment, you really need to separate them as much as you can. You know what I mean? Because they will absolutely influence each other. And then your work is a moderate, and your ability to do it is your ability to sell it, kind of get out there, is moderate, because you're not interested in doing it, And so trying to sell art for an artist is tough, because a lot of times they don't come with an entrepreneurial brain. And be nice to yourself in the process, and realize that every step you take, you're getting somewhere, whether you know it or not. So
Yeah, that's something that I was always really passionate about, because you have people who have tons of talent, they make amazing work, and then marketing yourself or building the relationships, that's a whole other side of it that I feel like people don't really understand, or it can be overwhelming. So that was always something that I wanted to do, like whether or not I personally was a working artist in marketing myself, but I always wanted to be like an advocate for other artists as well. So that's why I really enjoy like bringing people together and sharing resources too. I think that helps a lot.
oh, absolutely. And I've always been a big fan of it, especially because I didn't have a lot of natural opportunities myself, and I kind of had to build them. So I've always been a huge fan of that. It can be wearing. It's almost like the concept of trying to get out there and solve the business side of art can almost feel like an introvert in an extrovert space, where it's like it can be very taxing, and it can also feel pretty like banging your head up against the wall. It can feel pretty redundant and like you're not moving anywhere. But you just keep doing it and do a little bit and have grace with yourself. Be like, I did a little bit today, I don't have to do anymore. You know what I mean? I applied for that call, I'm just going to leave it. You know what I mean? Like, do a little bit at a time, because every little bit helps, and it's a marathon, not a sprint. So, just keep doing it. It's because the thing is that even if you don't care about sales or success in the art world, do it so I can see it. You know what I mean? Do it so other people who need to see it can see it. You know what I mean? Because there's a whole bunch of people you're going to reach with your work if you do that too. And another thing about it is, the last thing I'll say is that, like, what's a weird concept that I've always thought about is that, like, the only person in the world who can't really see your work is you, because you made it. It technically belongs to everyone else, because you'll never get to walk in and experience it for the first time. So you got to show people your work. You know what I mean? Even if you love it, love it, love it, and you think, no, 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 I don't do this to show other people. You got to show somebody, because that's the magic. You know what I mean? Is that they get to see I mean, think about how many cool things you've gone to see that somebody else made. You know what I mean? So like now it's that's like paying back into the human consciousness.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I've never heard it like said like that. I've never heard anyone put it like that, but that's awesome. Thanks for that.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks so much for joining me today. I would ask if you have any last bits of advice for people, but we've really covered a lot.
Yeah, I guess we did kind of talk about a lot. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, that's it. I mean, if you come to Fort Works Art, introduce yourself, want to meet you, whoever it is, and please, you should
Definitely.
come see the shows.
I do. I need to. I can't believe it's been as long as it has following on social media and not coming.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well,
I'll
just come
fix
whenever
that. I'll fix that soon.
it's there. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So just to close, can you give us your different places to find you, your website, your Instagram, and
Oh
everything?
yeah. I have a website that I just rebuilt. It's just j-wilkinson.com. And then my Instagram is Jay Wilkinson Art. I have a Facebook, but I don't think I check it anymore. But I think those are great. Those are great avenues to reach me. Also, Fort Works Art, fortworksart.com, at Fort Works Art on all the platforms. Gallery Dreams is our nonprofit organization that does the residency and different things like that. So follow them too. And yeah, come by. We're open Tuesday to Saturday, 11 to 5. So come in.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks so much, Jay.
Of course. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I'm truly grateful for your support and once again ask that you please rate the show, leave a comment, like and follow or subscribe. Do you have any topics that you'd like to hear next time? Please share them with us and I would love to incorporate them.